Hey folks, it's Mr. Woodward here. In this video, I'm talking about the electric house project and some of the how-to stuff. I know that many of you who have been working on this project at home could really use more demonstrations on how to put this stuff together. So for part one of the video, you were to design a circuit that could satisfy this criteria about like bright lights in one room, dim lights in another room, controlled by switches. And then in part two of the project, you have to actually start putting together a physical circuit. And so I want to show you like generally how to use the stuff to make a physical circuit. So first of all, if you have a lantern battery like this, that's awesome, because this is only 6 volts, so it's not going to blow out your lights, but it also lasts a really long time. If you only have a 9-volt battery, just be careful with the 9 volts, because if you attach a 9-volt battery to just one light, it will probably blow that light out. Let me show you in general how to connect stuff to a 6-volt battery. So you've got your alligator clips, right? And you're just gonna clip them on the ends of the battery. And then if you've already cut out a holiday light from a string of lights, and that would have been using some scissors or some wire cutters, where you would just cut the lights out and then you would strip the ends, right? So notice the ends are exposed, right? We've removed the green copper, excuse me, we've removed the green plastic insulation and have exposed the copper. So that's the part that you want to clip onto. Very important that you're clipping onto that and not just clipping onto the green insulation, because the green insulation will not conduct electricity. And then you can go from there to, another light using the alligator wires like this. Okay, and then I'm going to my second light. And then let's say I wanted to connect it to a switch. Well, if you have a 2-way switch like this, which just has 2 prongs, then you'll bring an alligator wire from, one of your lights, and you'll connect it just on one side of the switch here, okay? And then you've got the other prong here that you'll bring another alligator wire from. Okay, so bringing that one from the other side over to the battery. And I'll try to show you the whole circuit here. Okay, so we're going from the battery down to this first light, down the yellow to the second light, down the red to the switch, and then from the switch down the black wire back to the battery. Okay, and if I connect it to the battery correctly here, and then if I turn on the switch, then the lights now turn on from that switch. Okay, the switch is connected on both ends. Now, some of you have a 3-way switch, which looks like this. It actually has 3 prongs. And so what you want to do is, if you're connecting to a 3-way switch, just make sure that you connect to, first of all, the middle of that 3-way switch. And then you can actually do either side. You can go to this side and see how that works. Or you can go to the other side, and now it makes the switch work on that other side. Oh, it actually looks like it's just bypassing the switch altogether on that side. Although it shouldn't be doing that. I think there's a little piece of metal that's loose in here that I would have to pull out. Yeah, this little piece of metal on the inside is bypassing the switch. Let's try that. I just pulled that piece of metal out. So now on this side, so this side is now on, and then if I flip the switch, it turns it off. Cool, so just make sure you have the center one connected, and you can either do this side or the other side. Okay, so that's like generally how to connect stuff for part 2, which is creating the wire layout. And then once you have everything working, you'd want to like take a photo of that and then send that photo to me to show me that you've built the circuit in real life, okay? Now, for part 3, which is where you're actually starting to like install your stuff into the box, you are eventually going to get rid of all of these temporary alligator wires, okay? Because alligator wires like this are usually used just for prototyping and for testing. But when you're actually making a final installation, you use this kind of wire, which is hookup wire, okay? So you'd want to replace all of your alligator wires with hookup wires, and I'll just show you how this works. So you would cut some of this off at whatever length you need it, and then you would want to strip both ends, because this is not previously stripped. So if I strip that in, now I have the nice surface exposed. and then I would want to strip the other end. Okay, and now to connect this to a light, I've got to do something a little bit different. Since there's no clip, I'm just going to twist the wires together, okay? So I want to like point them in the same direction, cross them, and then twist them together. So this is what they look like if they're twisted. I'm in a room. I'm in a room with a motion detecting light, so the light just went out. So this is what they look like when they're, can I get the camera to focus on that? There we go. That's what they look like when they're twisted together. And then if it's too long, that's okay, you can trim it. You can just trim off a little bit here. So you'd want it to be like about that long. Okay, and there's actually a little piece that's still hanging off there. All right, and then you can take that connection and you can put some tape over it, or even better, if you have wire nuts. So this is a pack of twist-on wire connectors, wire nuts. These are threaded on the inside. And they will allow you to make the connection really nicely. So on the inside of these, if I can get the camera to focus on this, there we go. There's a thread, there's a metal thread on the inside. Okay, and you want to use that to grab on to this connection here. So I just lost my connection. See, this is exactly why the wire nuts are useful. I'm gonna twist the wires back together. And then as they have a tendency to come undone, you use the threaded wire connector, you just put it right over it, and then you screw it on, and it should eventually kind of grab onto it. And now I've got this really solid connection, okay? And then, okay, one thing I forgot to mention is that you might say, okay, well, you know, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to take the other end and just like touch it to the battery? And I would say, yeah, you can do that, but you are still allowed at this point to use an alligator clip onto the battery so that you can more easily connect your hookup wires. So go ahead and clip onto the battery and then alligator clip onto your hookup wire here, and then start to create your connections, okay? So then now I've got this light connected on one side to the battery, and then I would go to my next light and all the way around, and eventually I would bring the whole thing back to the battery. Again, it's okay to use alligator clips for just the battery so you can more easily connect to the battery. And then if I touch this one here, this light will turn on, of course. So then in the electric house project, this battery with 2 alligator clips is going to become like the power company, the electric company. And so once you've installed lights into your electric house box, you want to bring all of your wires back to just 2 points of connection so that someone could come with the battery and just hook up to your house and your whole house would turn on. So what would a house start to look like? So here's one that's like partially complete. So here's a shoebox. They've already divided it up into 2 rooms. They started decorating early. You usually don't decorate until the very end. And they've started to place like where they want their switches. So what they would do next is cut notches or holes into the boxes so that the switches go all the way in. They have some old school switches. You might have some of these newer ones, but same idea, cut a rectangular hole into the box, press the switch into the wall, and then the switch should come out the back side so that you can wire it from behind, okay? And then you'll start to poke holes into your box. You can see some of these holes where then they're starting to push their lights through, right? So this light would just go through, and then you would wire everything from behind, all of your lights poking through the box, wiring everything from behind. This particular student isn't using any wire nuts. I highly encourage you to use wire nuts. The prongs from the switches would also be poking out the box, and then you'd want to bring all the wires to just 2 points of connection, which would be here from the battery, so that the whole house can be easily connected to the battery, okay? All right, hopefully that's a helpful overview of how to create the wire layout with alligator wires, and then in the next step to start to transfer things to an actual box, poking the lights through the holes of the box, poking the switches through cut notches in the box, and then wiring everything behind the house so that your finished product has no exposed wires in the front side of the house. All the wires are hidden behind the house. Hope this is helpful.